Hello everyone, welcome back to Xcoding with Albion. In this course, we are going to build a full news app for WatchOS 8 using SwiftUI 3. Let me show you all the features of the Watch app that we'll build. First, just like the macOS app, we have the main list containing menu items such as search, saved articles, various categories from business, technology, science, health, and many more. We also have settings menu at the bottom. Let me tap on the top headlines category to navigate to the article list screen. It fetches the article from News API and shows them inside a list. The row contains the thumbnail image, title, description, date, and source of the article. We can also swipe on the row to bookmark the article. Let me tap on the article row to navigate to the article details screen. Here, we have title, article image, description of the article. There are two buttons. First one is to toggle the article bookmark. The other one is a bit special. When I tap this button, it will send the article to the iPhone. If the News iOS app is in background, it will show the push notification banner. Tapping on the banner will open the app and show the article in Safari web view. Other than that, if I hover through the dock on my Mac, I can see that there is a handoff activity from my Apple Watch for Axios News. Let me tap it. Boom! It resumes my activity by opening the article URL in Safari app. This can also be triggered from the app switcher on iOS. Let's go back to the main menu and let me show you how the search works. At the top, I can just tap on the search bar. To input the search query, I can use Siri on device dictation. Let me try to search Xbox. Nice! It successfully shows all the articles related to Xbox. From the bookmark menu, I can view all the articles that I have bookmarked before. I can also filter the article using the search bar above. For this watch app, we are going to add complications for three watch faces families: graphic rectangle, modular small, and modular large. It will use the WatchOS background refresh task every 1 hour to fetch and display the latest article based on category that we can customize. Finally, we have the settings menu. Here, the user can customize the category that will be used to fetch the article on the complication background task. The user can also clear all the current bookmarks data from the settings itself. That's all the features that we'll build on this course. Before we continue to code, I really recommend you to watch the first video of this series, where we built the iOS News app from scratch. If you are interested, you can also watch the second video about adding the UX adaptivity for the iPad OS, and the third video where we built the macOS app. If you have followed all the previous videos, you can just continue to code along. If you haven't, you can download the starter project from the GitHub repository that I provided at the description below. Select folder number 4, Building WatchOS News App with SwiftUI 3 and News API, and then select Starter folder and open the Xcode project in Xcode. You also need to download the latest Xcode 13 beta to build this project. I am using Xcode 13 beta 5 when recording this. Physical Apple Watch device running WatchOS 8 beta and macOS 12 beta Monterey are only required when building the handoff feature, as the simulator doesn't support handoff. Now, let's begin and open Xcode. Our first task is to create a new WatchOS target inside the current Axios News project. From the main menu bar, here we can click New and then select Target. And then here from the tab, select WatchOS and scroll down here in the application section, select Watch app for iOS app and then click Next. For the product name, give it a name XCN News Watch, and make sure the interface is selected using SwiftUI. And let's uncheck this notification scene as we won't use it. And finally, make sure the embed in companion app is using the XCN News, as it is our iOS target. And then finally, click finish. And here, the Xcode prompts us to activate the XCN News Watch complication scheme. And then let's just activate it. So Xcode has created two targets with all the template files and folder for us. First one is the XCN News Watch. This only contains the assets. And the other one, the XCN News Watch extensions. This contains all the source code, all the Swift files here. It also provides us the skeletons application here with a window group and navigation view with the content view. It is showing a placeholder text, hello world. And it also creates the scheme for us. So let's try to run the XCN News Watch using the Apple Watch simulator. I'm choosing the Apple Watch Series 5 44mm. It is paired with the iPhone 12 simulator. So let's try to build and run. Okay, now it is running WatchOS app. And as you can see here, first it installed the iOS app and it also installed the WatchOS app. It is showing the hello world placeholder. Nice. We have completed the first task, which is to add the WatchOS target to the existing Xcode project. Next, let's add the XCN News Watch target membership to the current shared models, view models, and API service. So we can share code between multiple targets. We'll handle the views later in the next task. So from the project navigator, click on the XCN News shared to expand it, and then click on the API, view model, and models. So here we're going to select multiple file. So you can do that by holding the command key while clicking on the files. So first, let me select news API, article news view model, article bookmark view model, article search view model, and article news API response, category, data store, and menu item. Okay, and then here you can toggle this right sidebar here and then click on the file inspector, and inside this target membership box, please check the XCN News Watch extension target here. Now let's try to build the target. Okay, the build is succeeded. There are no build time errors. Nice. With this, we have the shared access to all the current models, view models that are already being used for the iOS and macOS app. Next, let's move on to build the main menu list of our WatchOS app. The initial main menu has two sections. In the first section, we have the search and save menu items. In the second section, we have all the news categories with colorful list item tint background color. To handle navigation to the associated menu item screen, we'll wrap each item inside a navigation link passing the destination view. Now, let's begin by navigating to the content view.swift file inside the XCN News Watch extension folder. First, let's declare a private state property and give it a name of selected menu item ID. The type is menu item.id optional. So what is menu item? Menu item itself is an enum with three discrete cases: search, save, category with associated category enum. It also conforms to the identifiable protocol and use string as the underlying ID value. It also provides the compiled property to generate the text and the system image. Let's declare several private helper methods that will help us to generate the menu item row with navigation link association. Let's go back to the content view in the XCN News Watch extension. First, let's declare a method that returns the destination view associated with the menu item. We need to mark this using view builder and make this private Give it a name of view for menu item with one parameter, which is item with the type of menu item. The return type will be an opaque view. So inside the method, we can use switch statement passing the item. So for the safe case, for now, let's just print a placeholder text, save, and search, text, search. And for the category, let's grab the category associated value. And let's print a category with category dot raw value. Next, let's declare the second private helper method. Give it a name of navigation link for menu item. First parameter is item with the type of menu item. And for the second parameter, we'll pass a view builder closure that returns a view. With this, we are delegating the view provider to the caller of this method. So to do that, first let's make a generic constraint here, label with the type of view. And then here we need to mark this parameter as view builder and give it a name label. And then this is a closure with empty parameter, and it will return the label, which is the view. Okay. And finally, for the return type of the method, it will be an opaque view. So inside this method, let's declare a navigation link using destination and pass the view for menu item invocation, passing the item. For the second parameter, it will be tab. Here we can pass the item.id. And finally, for the selection, we can pass the selected menu item ID state as binding using the $prefix. And finally, for the label, we can just invoke this label view provider parameter here. Now let's try to build this. Okay, there are no build errors. Now, as you can see on the screenshot, the category menu item rows have different background colors for each of the category. Let's handle this by creating a file private extension for the menu item that provide a list item tint color property. So here, let's declare a file private extension for the menu item enum and declare a computed property with the name of list item tint color and provide a type which is optional color. Inside, we just need to use the switch statement passing self. So here, in case of default, I just want to return nil, but in case of category, I want to grab the category associated value. This is on category enum, so I can also use switch on the category. For this video, let me just pass various provided system color constants. For general, let me return orange, and then for business, return cyan, and for technology, return blue, and for the entertainment, I will return indigo. For sports, I'm going to return purple, and for cyan, I'm going to return brown, and for health, I'm going to return red. So next, let's scroll up to the navigation link for menu item. So here, for the navigation link, we just need to add the list item tint modifier, this one, and pass the item dot list item tint color compute property. Next, let's declare a private method for the category menu item view. Name it as list row for category menu item with one parameter, which is item with the type of menu item that returns an opaque view. So inside the method, let's declare a v stack, passing alignment as leading with spacing of 8. Let's also add a padding modifier, passing vertical edge and with the value of 10. Inside the v stack, we can declare an image, passing the item.systemImage for the system name parameter. Let's also add a image scale modifier, passing large. And below the image, let's declare the text, passing item.text. Okay, that's it for the list for category menu item view. Let's try to build this first to make sure there are no errors. Okay, the build succeeded. Now we have all the components needed to implement the content view body. Let's replace this placeholder and declare a list. And inside the list, let's declare a first section. Inside the first section, we just need to invoke navigation link for menu item, passing save. And for the label view provider closure, here let's declare a label, passing menu item.save.text for the title and menu item.save.systemImage for the system image parameter. That is it for the first section. Now for the second section, let's declare this using the content header initializer. For the header, let's declare a text, passing a hard-coded string of categories. Okay. And then inside the second section, declare a for each. Here we need to pass array of categories enum that have been converted to the menu items. And we already have that using these menu items. This is a helper computed property. And then here inside this closure, let's grab the parameter and then let's invoke navigation link for menu item, passing the item. And for the view provider for category, let's invoke list row for category menu item, passing the item. Okay. That's it for the list body. Now let's add several modifiers to the list. So to enable the first menu item at the top, search, we can use this new searchable modifier. This is new in SwiftUI 3. For now, let's pass a placeholder using this constant binding with empty string. We'll implement the search feature a bit later in this video. Okay, now for the second modifier, let's pass a navigation title, Xcode News. Okay, now let's try to run this using the WatchOS simulator. Okay, it shows the menu item successfully. Here at the top, we have this search bar, and then we have this save menu item. And then inside the second section, we have the categories with all the categories enum. Let's try the navigation. Let's tap on this save. Okay, so simply navigate to the save here. Let's try the categories. Okay, general, business, and technology. Okay, it works. But if you see here, the navigation title color is a bit of bland, right? So let's modify this by adding a color to it. So to do this in WatchOS app, we need to go to this assets folder in the Xcode News Watch target and then select the accent color. Select this one. And then here, using this attributes inspector, let's click this show color panel. Okay. And then here I'm just going to select orange for my global accent color. Okay. Now let's try to run this to see the result. Okay. This looks colorful. Nice. That's it for this task of implementing the main menu item list for the WatchOS app. Let's move on to the next task. For this task, We are going to migrate the existing article list screen to the WatchOS target. We'll add additional modification along the way to adapt to WatchOS. Let's begin by add WatchOS target membership to several existing shared views. So inside the XCA News shared folder here, expand the views folder, and then holding the command key, select article row view, article list view, news tab view, empty placeholder view, and then retry view. And here, open this right sidebar and go to the file inspector and check the Xcode News Watch extension inside the target membership box. Okay, so the container for the new screen is this news tab view. The view manages the task lifecycle to fetch the articles from News API based on the category using article news view model. Based on the view model state, it shows the list of articles inside a list or the overlay view, depending on the state from the view model. Here, in empty, we just show a progress view. In case of success, but the article is empty, we show an empty placeholder view. And then in case of failure, we provide a retry view containing the error text as well as the button to retry the task. If you are following from the previous tutorial and updating your Xcode to Xcode 13 Beta 5, there will be an error here in the task and reversible modifier when passing this load task and reverse task. So basically, to fix those build time issues, you just need to add this sendable keyword to the load task method and reverse task method. Because these two modifiers accepts an async function, and we need to mark that as sendable. Now try to build the project. Nice, there are no build time error for the WatchOS target. Now, let's make some UI adjustment to the article list view to adapt for WatchOS target. Navigate to the article list view.swift file. So as you can see here, we have this root view. And here on iOS, depending on the environment horizontal size class value, in case of regular size, we show a grid view. And then for compact size, we show list view. And for macOS target, we only show the article inside a grid. Here we have this grid view computed property. And inside the grid view, we use scroll view with lazy vgrid. And for the list view, we just use a standard list. So currently on iOS, when the user tap on the row, we just present a model sheet presentation containing the Safari view, so they can read the article inside a web view. And for macOS target, currently we just redirect them to open the URL in Safari application. So basically for our WatchOS target, we want to use this list view, and when the user tap on the article, we're going to present us new screen, which is article details screen. Because currently on WatchOS, it is not possible to display a web view on third-party application. So that's basically it for the article list view UI adjustments. So let's implement that. Okay, so let's begin by here inside the list view. Let's add or here conditional completion for WatchOS. Okay, and here for this list row instance and list row separator, let's make this only target iOS. Okay, and then inside this for each article's closure, we need to also add conditional completion for iOS first. For iOS, we can use the current implementation, and then we need to create another else if OS WatchOS. Okay. Here we need to wrap the article row view inside a navigation link. Let's use this destination label. So for the label, let's just declare the article row view and then pass the article. For the destination, this will be the article detail screen. For now, let's just pass a placeholder text containing article.description text. Okay. Now the list view can be compiled on WatchOS target. We need to scroll down to this root view here because it uses this root view inside the body. Here we need to add additional conditional compilation, else if OS WatchOS. We just need to declare the list view computed property. Okay, I think this is the adjustment that we need to make for the article list view. Now let's navigate to the article row view to make some adjustment. So for WatchOS, we're going to show a small thumbnail of an article and title of the article inside a h tag. Below the h tag, we'll show the description tags and caption tags containing published date and source. As we are going to also show an image that will be fetched from the internet similar to the current implementation for iOS and macOS, let's create a private property to generate this. So let's scroll down here and let's declare a private var async image and with a type of opaque view. And for the implementation, we can just copy this current implementation inside the content view, this async image. So select this with all the modifiers and then cut this. Okay, and then let's declare this async image computed property and then let's pass this, and here we need to add conditional compilation macro for WatchOS, else if OS WatchOS. Here, let's set the frame with max width of 40 and max height of 70. Also here, let's add a conditional compilation for WatchOS below the background. This is only for WatchOS. Let's add a corner radius of 4. Okay, we have implemented the async image property. Next, declare a private component property named watch content view with the type of an opaque view, and let's make this only available for WatchOS target using the if OS WatchOS. So inside the watch content view, first we need to declare a fish tag and set the alignment as leading. Let's use the default spacing, and then let's add additional modifier padding, passing vertical edges. And then inside the h tag, let's declare the h tag first, and then for the inside the h tag, we're going to declare the async image, and then we're going to declare the text passing article dot title and set the line limit to 3, set the font to headline, and finally add the foreground style as primary. Next, let's move on below the h tag. Let's declare the text passing the article dot description text property. Let's pass the line limit to 2, set the font to caption 2, and set the foreground style to secondary. Finally, below this text, we'll add the h tag. First, we need to check whether the current article is already bookmarked. Using the article bookmark view model is bookmarked for passing the article. If true, we just show an image, passing system name, bookmark string. And then below that, let's declare the article.caption text inside the text here. And then set the font to footnote. Set the line limit to 2 and set the foreground style as tertiary. Okay, let's clean this. This is the implementation for the watch content view. To toggle the article bookmark, we will be using swipe actions that the user can activate by swiping on the row. So here below the padding modifier, let's add swipe actions modifier. And inside this closure, this provider, let's handle two cases. In case the article is already bookmarked and if not. So in case it is already bookmarked, let's declare a button using this role action label. For the button role, let's pass destructive. And for the action, we can just invoke article bookmark pm dot remove bookmark for passing the article. For the label, let's declare a label passing remove bookmark string as the title. And for the system image, let's pass bookmark. Okay, let's copy this. But let's just remove the role for the else case. In case it is not yet bookmarked, we need to change the action handler here to invoke add bookmark for article. And for the label, let's remove this remove keyword. And that's it for the swipe actions. Now let's navigate to the root view here, this body. So here we need to add additional conditional compilation for WatchOS. So in case of WatchOS, we want to return the watch content view. Okay, let's try to build this first. Okay, there are no build time errors. But if you see here, we have this environment object view model for the bookmark VM. So we need to inject this for the Xcode NewsApp targeting WatchOS. So here inside this Xcode News Watch extension, select this Xcode NewsApp. And then here let's declare a step object, make it private, and give it a name of bookmark VM, and assign it with article bookmark view model dot shared. This is a singleton. And then let's inject this at the root level. Add this environment object modifier to the navigation view, and let's pass the bookmark VM. Next, we need to declare the news tab view as the destination view when the user taps on the category menu item from the main menu list. So let's navigate to the content view inside the Xcode News Watch extension folder. Here, scroll down to the view for menu item method here. And for the category case, let's replace this placeholder text to news tab view, passing the category from the associated value. Okay, that's it. Let's try to build and run the app. But before that, make sure to provide your news API key to the API key constant inside the news API.swift file. You can get it from the newsapi.org. They provide a free developer plan with up to 100 requests per day. If you already exceeded the maximum daily quota, You can also get an array of stub articles by using article.previewData static constant. This is pretty helpful if in the development phase. So I have already provided my API key inside the newsapp.swift file. Now let me try to build and run. Okay, so here let me tap on these top headlines. Nice, it shows all the article using this general top headlines category. So now let me try another category, technology. Okay, nice. Image is shown, title, description, and the caption here containing the source and the published date. Now let me try to swipe on the row to reveal this bookmark button and tap. Okay, nice. The article is bookmarked here. The icon is shown. Let's try to remove the bookmark. Okay, nice. It is removed. Working great. Let me tap on the article. Nice. It successfully navigate to the placeholder detail screen here containing the article description text. That's it for this task. Now let's move on to the next task. Okay, so for the next task, we are going to create the article detail view for the WatchOS target. So expand this Watch extension folder and create a new folder using command option N, and then give it a name of views. Create a new SwiftUI view with the name of article detail view. This only targets the Watch extension. So here, first let's declare a constant. Give it a name of article with type of article. Next, declare an environment object. Make it private. Give it a name of bookmark PM with type of article bookmark view model. And for this preview, let's pass the stub article.previewData. Let's use the third one. And let's add the environment object also, passing the article bookmark view model dot shared singleton. Now inside the body, let's delete this placeholder text and then declare a scroll view and declare a v-stack with alignment set to leading and spacing of 8. Okay, so the first view inside the v-stack will be a text with article.title, and let's pass the font as headline, set the foreground style as primary, and below that we need to display the image of the article. Let's copy this from the article row view. It is inside this async image. Let's just copy this. We do not need to copy the modifier. Okay, and then let's go back to the article detail view, and below this article title text, pass this async image, and let's just add the corner radius modifier passing 4 and the clip modifier. Okay, we have the async image. Now below the async image, let's declare an edge tag. The first item in the edge tag is a button. Here, using this action label. So basically here we just need to toggle the bookmark status of an article. So currently the logic is located inside this article row view. So let's refactor a bit here. As you can see here. Let's move this to the article bookmark view model instead. So select this and cut this from the article raw view.swift and navigate to the article bookmark view model and scroll down here above this private func, paste this, and inside the method body, remove this reference to article bookmark VM because this is already the bookmark VM. Okay, now let's remove the private keyword from here so we can access this from the view. And this inside the article raw view, find the reference to toggle bookmark for article. So here we just need to replace this one, invoking article bookmark view model toggle bookmark, passing the article. Let's find another one here also. Toggle the article bookmark view model toggle bookmark for article. Okay. Now we can use this logic inside the article detail view.swift file. Here we can invoke bookmark vm dot toggle bookmark for article, and for the view provider for the button, let's declare a image system name. Here let's check the using the ternary operator. Let's check the bookmark status for the article. In case it is already bookmarked, let's return bookmark dot fill. Else let's just return bookmark. Okay, that's it for the first button. Okay, so for the second button, let's declare a button here with action label. Let's leave the action closure empty for now. We'll implement the feature later. So basically this will send the article to be read on the iPhone. For the label, let's declare an image with system name of arrow dot turn dot up dot forward dot iPhone. Set the image scale to large. Let's also add this for the bookmark, this image scale modifier large. Okay, that's it for the horizontal stack. Now let's move on. Below the edge tag, let's declare a text passing article dot description text. Set the font to body and set the foreground style as secondary. And finally, we have the article dot caption text. Set the font as caption and set the foreground style as tertiary. Okay, that's it for this article detail view implementation. Now we need to use this in article list view. Inside this list view for the WatchOS target here, inside this navigation link destination. Okay, now let's replace this placeholder text using the article detail view, passing the article. Let's try to build this. Okay, there are no build time errors. Now let's just build and run to test using the simulator. Okay, now let me scroll down to the top headlines. Select this article. Okay, it successfully navigate to the article little screen. We have the title and the image, the horizontal stack containing the buttons, the description text, as well as the caption text. Now let me try to bookmark the article. Nice. Let me go back. Okay, it is bookmarked successfully. Let me remove the bookmark. Okay, that's it for this task to implement the article detail screen. Okay, now let's move on to the next task, which is to migrate the bookmark view. So here inside this action news shared folder, inside the views folder, select the bookmark tab view here. And then here inside the file inspector, check the Excel News Watch extension inside the target membership box. And now let's try to build it first. Okay, the build succeeded. Now navigate to the content view inside the Excel News Watch extension. And inside this view for menu item method, for the save case, we need to return this bookmark tab view. Okay, now let's try to run this. Okay, let me make this simulator a bit bigger. Let's bookmark several articles first. Okay, this one. Okay, that's enough. Let's go back, scroll up, and tap on the save menu item. Nice, it shows all the bookmark articles inside the list. And here at the top, we can also filter the articles here. Let me tap on it. It will use the default dictation here, or this swiping. Let me try to dictate using the on-device stereo dictation. New Zealand. Search. Nice. It's successfully filtered to show only the New Zealand. Okay. Let me remove this. Okay. And now let's try to swipe on the row. Okay, to remove it from bookmark. Okay. So it crashes here. Index 0 beyond bounds for empty array. I think this is a current bug for the WatchOS 8 beta. And I think this will be fixed by Apple in the stable release. So for now, let's just ignore this. Let's try again here in the empty view for the bookmark articles. It shows this empty placeholder view. But if you see here, it is overlapping the search bar, which is not good here for the UI experience. Now let's try to fix this issue. Let's navigate back to the bookmark tab view.swift file here. And basically the search bar is rendered using this searchable modifier. So to fix this, we need to conditionally declare this modifier only if the article is not empty for WatchOS target. SwiftUI currently doesn't support conditional modifier. So let's handle this manually by declaring a file private extension for the view only for WatchOS target. Let's scroll down here and then let's declare this using conditional compilation if OS WatchOS, and let's declare it as file private extension view. And let's use view builder annotation for the method. Give it a name of conditional searchable. Let's pass show search bar parameter with the type of boolean. And for the second one, let's pass the search text binding with the type of string. And the return type will be the opaque view. So here, basically we can just check if show search bar is true. We'll add the searchable modifier, passing the search text binding, and else we just return the current view using this self. Okay, let's clean this white spaces and new lines. And let's use this at the top of the body. So here we need to add additional conditional compilation if OS WatchOS and else. So for the else, we just use the current one, the searchable. And in case of WatchOS target, we need to invoke this conditional searchable, and let's pass the show search bar parameter using this not article is empty, and let's pass the binding search text. Okay, now let's try to build and run this to make sure whether this fixes the UI issue. So currently I have no bookmark articles. Nice. Now whenever there are no articles, staff articles, the search bar won't be shown. Okay, I think this is good enough. Now let's move on to the next task, which is to implement the search feature. So let's migrate the search tab view first. So expand this News shared folder and the views folder, and then select the search tab view.swift file here. And here inside the target membership box, check the News Watch extension target. Okay, now let's try to build this. Okay, there are build time errors. Cannot find search VM in scope. Okay, so if we see here, this search VM property is only being declared for the iOS or macOS target. For iOS, it is declared as state object. For the macOS, it is using the environment object. So in this case, for the WatchOS, we will declare this using the environment object similar to the macOS. So let's just add additional conditional compilation here, or OS, WatchOS. Okay. Now let's try to build. Okay, the build succeeded, but we need to make some additional adjustment here. Here in the overlay view for the empty state, I want to also mimic the macOS behavior to show a progress view. So let me add OS, WatchOS here, the else. And finally, let's navigate to the body here. For the navigation title, I want it also to be similar to the macOS. So let's also add OS, WatchOS here. Okay, now let's make sure to build again. Okay, the build succeeded. Now let's navigate to the content view inside the News Watch extension. Here, as you can see in the body of the content view. So here we already have the search bar shown on the main menu using this searchable modifier. But currently it doesn't work as we only pass this placeholder binding constant with an empty string and doesn't handle the unsubmit action. Before we implement, let me outline the interaction that we want to achieve. First, the user taps on the search bar. Then, they will input the search query and tap search. Next, we need to handle the submitted query by navigating to the search result screen and begin searching the articles from News API based on the search query. Finally, when they navigate back from the search result screen, we clear the search query on the search bar. As we already have the search bar rendered on the main menu item, we need to provide a hidden row containing the navigation link with destination to the search result view. We need to trigger this navigation manually when the user submits the search query by assigning the selected menu item ID using the menu item search ID. Okay, to begin, let's declare a environment object. Make it as private and give it a name of search VM with the type of article search view model. And then let's inject this from the preview. So let me also inject the bookmark view model. I forgot to do that before. And the article search view model.shared. Okay. Now we need to inject it from the app itself here. So let's declare the state object, private property with the name of search VM. and assign it with the article search view model shared singleton, and add the second environment object modifier passing the search VM. Okay, back to the content view here. So inside this searchable modifier, let's remove this placeholder binding and then pass the search vm.search query publish property. Okay, now let's create the private method to handle the search when the user submit the search query. Let's give it a name of search. So here let's declare a constant named search query, and let's get the search from search vm.search query, and let's trim it using these trimming characters, passing white spaces and new lines. So in case this constant is empty, we just return, and continuing on. To invoke the programmatic navigation, we need to set the selected menu item ID state with menu item dot search dot ID. Okay, this will trigger the navigation to the search result screen. And finally, we need to kick off the async search method using this task and then pass disclosure. And inside this async context, we need to prefix the call with await and trigger search vm dot search article. Okay, and now inside this list, let's add the onSubmit modifier here using this onSubmit off. And for the submit triggers, let's pass search, and for the action, let's just pass search. Okay, so whenever the user submit the search, it will trigger this search method. Okay, now we need to declare the hidden navigation link. So as we already have the search bar rendered, we want to make sure this navigation link for search is rendered as hidden. So if I just declare this navigation link for menu item search, it won't work. It will show the navigation link row. So to make this hidden, we need to wrap this list inside a C stack. Okay, let's move this inside the Z stack, and then the first item in the Z stack will be the navigation link for menu item, passing menu item dot search, and then for the label, I need to declare empty view, and I need to add the hidden modifier. Okay, now let's navigate to the view for menu item method here. For the search case, we need to replace this placeholder with search tab view. And then we also need to add on disappear modifier. Here we just need to set the search vm.search query text with an empty string to clear the search bar. Okay, so if you have following the previous tutorial without using the starter project to begin this tutorial, so I have made some fixes here inside the search article method. So in this comparison, after the async task has been completed, both for the success and failure case, so here I created a new completed property to get the search query from this published property and then trim that. So before, I'm not using that. So there might be a case this is not correct. So to fix that, you just need to declare this complete property and get the search query and trim that, and then use that in here and inside the comparison for both success and failure case. Okay, now we can try to build and test this search feature using the simulator. Now let me tap on the search bar and search using Siri dictation. Steve Jobs. Okay, it successfully navigate to the search result screen, showing all the articles related to Steve Jobs. Nice. I can also bookmark the article. And when I go back, as you can see, the search bar is clear. Nice, we have successfully implemented the search feature for our WatchOS app. Now let's move on to the next task. So far, we have already implemented most of the basic features for the WatchOS app. The user right now won't be able to read the full article from the Apple Watch. It will be nice if we are able to send the article to be fit in iPhone using Safari. Let's implement this send to iPhone feature by using Watch Connectivity framework. Watch Connectivity is basically a framework provided by Apple that can be used to send and receive data between Apple Watch and paired iPhone. We just need to activate and set the delegate for the Watch Connectivity session when the app launches both from iPhone and WatchOS. With the activated session, we can send the data and receive the reply handler from the receiver. It also provided the reachability flag and delegate change API to determine reachability status of the iPhone or Apple Watch. I've provided the link to the full documentation at the description below if you are interested to learn more about it. So first, let's navigate to the Action News shared here. And then inside the view models, let's create a new Swift file. Give it a name of Watch Connectivity view model. And for this, we are going to target Action News target here and the Action News Watch extension. This Action News is the iOS target. Okay. And then let's click create. Okay. So let's import SwiftUI as well as the Watch Connectivity framework. Now let's declare the class named Watch Connectivity View Model. That is a subclass of NS object. And let's also make it to conform to the observable object as well as the WC session delegate. Okay, and first let's declare a private constant named session and assign it with WC session.default singleton. Let's also make this class as a singleton using the static let share and then initialize this Watch Connectivity view model. Next, let's override the default initializer. And as this is a subclass of NS object, we need to call super.init. And in this init method, we need to check whether the WC session is supported. In case it is supported, let's grab the session.delegate and assign it to self. And next, let's call session.activate to begin the activation process of the WC session. Okay. Now I'm going to declare two publish property. Publish with the name of is reachable. Let me give a default value of false. Next one is sending. Also assign it with the default value of false. Okay, now let's try to build this. So here it complains with an error to implement some of the WC session delegate required methods. Okay, let's implement those required methods. The first one is session activation did complete with activation state. Here let's just print session activation did complete and let's use the string interpolation to print the activation state dot raw value. And then we need to update this is reachable property. To do that, we need to update it from the main queue. Let's just use dispatch queue dot main dot async here, and then assign the self is reachable with the session is reachable property. Okay. For the second method that we require to implement is session reachability did change. Here we just need to update the reachability publish property. So let me copy and paste this from the above method. And there are several methods that we also need to implement only for iOS. So let me add the conditional compilation for iOS. So on iOS, we also need to implement session deactivate. This will be triggered in case the user switch to a new watch. In this case, we just need to invoke session.activate again. And then we need to also implement the session did become inactive. So in this case, let me just print session did become inactive, and then print the session dot activation state dot raw value. And the last one is session watch state did change. Okay, let's also print the activation state raw value here. Let's change this text, session watch state did change. Okay, that's all the required methods that we need to implement both for the WatchOS and iOS target. Okay, now let's implement the session did receive message with this reply handler, this one. This method will be invoked when the receiver got the message containing the payload dictionary. In our case, the iPhone will got this when the Apple Watch send the URL to open. In the body, let's add conditional compilation macro targeting iOS only. So let's use this if iOS, then and if. There are several values that we need to unwrap from the message payload. So let's use if let. First one is the title, message title, and then let's cast this as string. Second, description, message description as string, and then the URL string message with the key of URL, cast this as string, and then we need to construct the URL using this URL string. Okay. And for the else block, in case one of them fails, let's just invoke the reply handler passing an empty dictionary. In the if block, let's switch to the main thread first using dispatch queue main async. So by switching this to the main thread, so there are two possibilities in here. First, if the iOS app is already in active state, we just post a notification named article send using notification center with user info dictionary containing the article URL. So first, if UI application.share.application state is active, and the other one whether is on background or inactive. So if the app is on background or inactive, we're going to trigger a local push notification containing the article URL as the payload. Okay, so before we implement this if else block, let's first create an extension for notification.name containing our custom notification name. Let's declare a constant static let article send and initialize it with notification.name, passing this article send string. Okay, this is our custom notification name. And then here inside the application state equals to active, let's just print the article URL open to help in debugging. And then let's access the notification center dot default singleton and then pause the notification. For the name, let's use this article send. Okay, and for the object, let's pass nil. For the user info, I'm going to pass this URL key, and for the value, I'm just going to pass this URL instance. Okay, now let's move on to the else block in case the iOS app is in inactive or background state. So here we need to declare a constant and give it a name of content. Let's use un mutable notification content for the local push notification. Here we need to assign the title using all of these properties here. Title. Okay, and next let's assign the body with the description and the content.user info. We need to pass the dictionary containing the URL key and the URL. But in the case of local push notification, we won't be able to pass the actual URL. It will fail. So in this case, let's just pass the URL string. And let's also set the content.sound to default. Next, we need to declare this request constant and assign it with the un notification request. Okay, for the identifier, let's just use this UID and assign it with unique UID string. For the content, we can pass this content constant. And for the trigger, let's initialize un time interval notification trigger, passing time interval as 1, so it can be sent immediately. And for repeats, let's pass false. And finally, to invoke this, we need to use un user notification center dot current and then invoke this app. Let's pass the request constant. And for the completion handler, it's going to pass an optional error. Let's just print this error dot localized description. In case the error is nil, we just provide a default value. It means the local push notification is successfully sent. Okay, here we need to also make sure to invoke this replay handler, and let's pass a dictionary article URL open key with the value of true. This will help in debugging to make sure the iPhone successfully opened the message. Now let's try to build this first. Okay, the build succeeded. So next we need to create a method to send the URL to iPhone from the WatchOS target. So here we need to add conditional compilation if OS WatchOS, and inside this conditional compilation block, let's declare a method send URL to iPhone, and then let's pass a single parameter, the article. First, let's declare a dictionary message, and then here let's assign several keys and values. First one is title. Let's just pass tab to read article. And second one is the description key with the value of article.title. Last one is the URL key with the value of article.article URL absolute string. Okay, now we have the message dictionary. Let's update the isSending property to true here. And to send the message, we can just invoke WC session send message, this one. Let's pass our dictionary message. And here in the success case, let's grab the reply handle dictionary and just print this to help us in debugging. And then we need to update the isSending property to false here. Let's just use dispatch queue.main.async and let's set the self isSending is false. Okay, now for the error handler, let's grab the error and let's also print the error to help us in debugging. Error.localize description. Here we also need to update isSending property to false. So let me copy this and paste this. Okay, so that's it for the connective view model implementation. Next, we need to implement this to receive the message on iOS and send the message on the WatchOS target. Let's begin by implementing the sending logic for the WatchOS target. So first, let's go to the NewsApp. Inside the News Watch extension folder here. So let's declare the state object private and give it a name of connectivity VM, and then we assign it with watch connectivity view model.shared singleton, and let's also inject this using the environment object passing the connectivity VM. Now let's navigate to the article detail view.swift for the News Watch extension. Here let's declare an environment object, make it private, and give it a name of connectivity VM with the type of watch connectivity view model. Let's also inject this the preview below. Let's pass the watch connectivity view model.shared singleton. Now scroll down to this edge tag containing these two buttons here. Now inside this second button, we just need to invoke connectivity VM, send URL to iPhone passing the article. Okay, let's also make some UI adjustment. So when the reachable state flag is false, we won't display the button. So let's use if connectivity VM is reachable. Okay, if this is true, we show the button. Only if it is true. And here, when the isSending property is true, I want to show a progress view. And then for the else case, I just want to show this button. Okay. So if connectivity VM is sending, in case it is true, I want to show a progress indicator with a frame modifier, and let me pass height of 20. Okay, so the else block, in case it is not sending, just show the button. This will avoid a multiple tab when the current article is being sent. Okay, now we have implemented the sending logic from WatchOS. Next, let's move on to implement the receiving logic from the iOS. Okay, so first let's navigate to the NewsApp.swift file inside the News folder. This is the iOS target. Let's declare the state object for connectivity VM and then assign it with watch connective view model.shared singleton. This will initialize and activate the watch connectivity session. We won't be actually injecting this to the child view. Instead, we'll observe when the notification publish the notification with the article send name. So there are two cases that we need to handle. So let's handle the first one in case the app is in foreground or is in active state. So basically our view needs to react and then get the URL from the notification payload and present a model sheet containing the Savory view. Okay, so let's navigate to the article listview.swift file. So this is the current logic for iOS. we use this .sheet modifier and then pass this selected article as the binding to trigger the presentation of this Safari view. Okay. Okay, now let's make some refactoring a bit here. So as you can see here, we are using the selected article with the type of article. So we need to change this to only pass the URL instead the whole model. Okay, let's change this to the URL and let's try to build it to find the errors. Okay, so here let's change this to the selected article URL, and then here we just need to pass this $0. This is already an URL. Okay, there is another error, requires that the URL conforms to identifiable. Okay, let's scroll to the bottom here and create an extension for the URL and make it conform to the identifiable protocol. We need to declare a public var ID. Let's make the type as string, and then we just need to return the absolute string of the URL. Okay, now the URL conforms to the identifiable. The build time error should be gone now. Nice. Okay, now this one, selected article. Let's just pass selected article URL and then assign it with the article.article URL property. Okay, next one here in this handle on tap gesture method. Okay, let's change this, pass the article URL. Okay, now let's try to build again. Okay, now there are no build time errors. So now we need to observe the notification center for the article send notification name from this view. And it is pretty simple. From using the SwiftUI, we can use this onReceive modifier. And then here, as you can see, it accepts the publisher. And then we can use notification center.default. Okay, we can use this publisher for object. Here for the notification name, let's pass article send. For the object, let's pass nil. Okay. Now let's implement the closure here. Here we have this notification as the parameter. Now we can implement this notification handler. First, let's get the URL using the notification.userinfo. This is optional, so let's use this question mark. And then let's access the URL using the URL key. And then for the notification, it will be sent as the URL type. So let's cast this to URL. Okay. So before we execute, we also need to check whether the URL is not equal to the current selected article URL to avoid dismissing and then presenting the model sheet again in case the URL is same. So inside the if block, we can just assign the selected article URL state with the URL to trigger this model sheet presenting the Safari view. Okay, now we have implemented the handler for receiving the article on active or foreground state when receiving this notification center article send notification name. Next, we need to handle when the app receives local push notification when it is running on background and the user taps the notification banner. We also need to ask the authorization to the user to enable the push notification permission. These logics are usually performed in AppDelegate, but when we create a project with SwiftUI, AppDelegate is not generated by default. So to use AppDelegate in SwiftUI project, we need to use UI application delegate adapter for iOS. To use AppDelegate in SwiftUI project, we need to use UI application delegate adapter property wrapper, passing or AppDelegate class. Okay, so let's navigate to the Xcode News app. Inside the Xcode News folder, the iOS target. So here at the top, Let me import UI kit, okay, and declare a class app delegate. Make this as a subclass of NS object, and let's implement UI application delegate as well as the UN user notification center delegate. Okay, so we need to implement first. Okay, so the first method that we need to implement is the application that finish launching with options. Here we need to assign UN user notification center dot current dot delegate to self. Next, we need to ask for the authorization using the UN user notification current request authorization, passing the options. Here we want alert, we want sound, and we want batch. And then inside the completion handler, let's grab the success and errors parameters and then print it to help us in debugging. No error for authorization permission is the default value. And now let's make sure to return true from this did finish launching with options. Okay, for the second method, let's implement user notification will present here. And then for the completion option, completion handler, let's pass array of sound and banner. Okay, now for the third method, let's implement user notification with receive response with completion handler. Here, this will be invoked when the user taps on the local push notification banner. Inside the method, let's grab the URL from the user info. We can get it from response.notification.request.content.userinfo. This is the dictionary. And then here, let's just pass the URL here. And then let's cast this as string. Let me change the name here, URL string. Okay. And then let's convert this URL string into URL. Okay. In case both are success, we just need to invoke notification center dot default post this one. For the name, let's pass article sent. For the object, let's pass nil. For the user info, we can pass this dictionary containing the URL key with the actual URL instance. Okay. So here, when the user taps this will open the app and then change the state of the application to foreground. And then push this notification so the article list view can react and present the Safari view. Okay, before we can try to build and run this, we need to connect this app delegate to the SwiftUI app for iOS. To do that, we need to use the property wrapper UI application delegate adapter. Let's pass the class type of app delegate and let's make this private with the name of delegate. Let's also update this both of this state object to be private. Okay, now let's try to build and run this. Okay, so I have my iPhone 12 simulator paired to the Apple Watch Series 5 simulator. Before we send a URL from the Apple Watch, let's open the app on iPhone first and then allow this push notification permission. Okay, so for the first test case, we are going to test when the app is active or is in foreground here, the iPhone app. So let me select a category, business. Let me select this one and then tap on this send article button. Okay, it successfully sent the article to iPhone and then present this in a model sheet using the Safari view here. Nice. Now let me select another article, this one. Select this Hmm. Here the titles say Elon Musk, but this is still showing the previous article. I think there's bug that we need to fix. So let's just stop it, the simulators first, and then go to the article list view. So from what I can see here, the Safari view is not updating the content for the second time when this URL change. So I think we need to, as we are passing this not as a binding, the SwiftUI doesn't know when it should update this view. So here we just need to use an explicit identifier. So for the identifier, we just pass the URL. So whenever the URL changes here, the SwiftUI will know that it needs to reload this Safari view with the new content. Okay, now let's try this. Okay, let me open the app and select top headlines here. Okay, so let me select this. Send URL to iPhone. Okay, open this one with the title of ill simulation complete. Okay, go back, select another article. This one, Tyrone versus Carry, and then let me tap send URL to iPhone. Okay, now it updates the feed correctly with the new content. Let me select another one. This one, Paul Merson. Send URL to iPhone. Okay, now it works correctly. Now let me test when the iPhone app is on background. Okay. Here, let me send an article. This one. And then send this. Nice. There's this push notification banner. Tap to read article and containing the article title. Okay, let me tap on the push notification banner. Open. Nice. It shows the Safari view containing the article URL. This is very magical, right? That's it for the watch connectivity between iPhone and Apple Watch tasks. It's a kind of magical seeing this kind of connectivity between devices. Next, let's move on to implement the handoff feature. This task requires a valid developer account and physical devices to be able to test properly. Handoff relies on the NS User Activity API. Each of the app target needs to declare the NS User Activity Types array containing the custom activity key that it supports inside the info plist. All the targets need to also turn on handoff in the settings. When using UIKit-UI view controller, we can create a user activity instance and assign it with as a property for the view controller. For SwiftUI, Apple has also provided the user activity modifier that we can attach to a view and then broadcast the user activity. To handle the user activity, we can implement the onContinueUserActivity method in our app delegate, then react according to the activity value accordingly. SwiftUI also provided the onContinueUserActivity modifier, so the view can react accordingly depending on the activity type. So in this task, we are going to broadcast user activity containing the article URL palette from our WatchOS app when the user navigates to the article details screen. iPhone can see this user activity from the app switcher. When they tap, the app should open and present the model sheet containing the Safari view. And for the macOS users, they can see this handoff icon from the dock. When they click, it will open Safari with new tab containing the URL. Okay, to begin this handoff implementation, let's add the NS user activity types key to the info plist for the target that we want to use handoff. So the first one is this Axial News target for iOS. Select this and then select info. And then here, this is the info plist. Let's add a new one. And here for the key, let's assign it with ns user activity types. Okay, with s. And then let's set the type as an array. And let me expand this and assign an item. For the item, let's use your bundle ID as the prefix. In my case, it is com.alvianlozari.xnews. And then, for the activity type, let's set it as view. Okay, now let's copy this key and value. And then go to the Xnews map here. Let's also select this info tab and then paste this. Okay, and let's do the same for the watch target here. Make sure to select this one, Xnews watch, instead of this extension. Okay, so inside this Xnews watch, let me also assign this to the info plist. Okay, now we have assigned to all the targets that we want to create the handoff connection. Okay, now let me copy this value and then let me go to the article.swift model. So here at the top, let's declare a constant. Give it the name of activity type view key. Assign it with that value from the ns user activity types array. com.alvianlozari.xnews.view in the case. Okay, and for the second constant, let's declare a activity URL key. Here, let's assign xnews.url.key. Okay. Now let's begin the implementation to broadcast the user activity from the WatchOS. Let's go to the article detail view. Okay, here inside the body and here at the bottom, let's add this to the scroll view. Let's add the modifier to the scroll view, user activity. Let's use this one, user activity element. For the activity type string, let's pass the activity type view key constant. And for the element, let's pass the article property. Here, it will provide a closure here. Next, the first one is the article and the second one is the user activity. First, let's set the user activity is eligible for handoff property as true. And second, let's assign the user activity required user info keys with array of activity URL key. This is the required keys. And let's pass the URL here, invoking user activity dot add user info entries. Here we need to pass a dictionary. In this case, let's pass the activity URL key with the value of article URL. We need to pass string. And that's basically it for broadcasting this article from the WatchOS. Next, we need to handle for receiving this user activity with this view key from the iPhone app. And to do that, let's navigate to the article list view. So here below the onReceive modifier, let's add additional modifier on continue user activity. And here we need to pass the activity type. Let's pass activity type view key. Okay, for the closure, it will pass a user activity as the parameter. Okay, so let's grab the URL string using user activity dot user info. This is optional. So let's add this question mark. Then For the key, we need to use activity URL key. Okay, next, after we grab the URL string, let's initialize it into an URL string, passing this URL string. Okay, if we get this URL successfully, we just need to also check whether the URL is not equal to the current selected article URL state. And then finally, we need to just assign this URL to the selected article URL state property. Okay, we need to cast this as string. So this basically will also trigger this model sheet and then present a Safari view using the URL. That's it for receiving the handoff broadcast user activity from iOS. Okay, so to try this, you need to have your own Apple Watch device and iPhone device with WatchOS 8 beta installed as well as iOS 15 beta installed. So here from my Apple Watch, let me open the Xcode News app and select the category. Here, let me select this article and go to the article title screen. And here on my iPhone, let me toggle the app switcher. As you can see there's the icon there for the handoff Xcode News from Alfian's Apple Watch. Let me tap. Okay, nice. It successfully opened the Safari view in model sheet presentation containing the URL from the Apple Watch. Nice. Next, let's move on to handle the receiving handoff activity on macOS. So actually when testing this on macOS using the onContinue user activity modifier, I always get the empty payload from the user activity sent from the watch. Not sure whether this is an incorrect implementation from my side or bug from Apple's side. So for the macOS, we are going to handle it differently using application delegate onContinue user activity. So let's navigate to the Xnews Mac app.swift. Here at the top, we need to import AppKit and then declare the appDelegate class and make it inherit the NS object and conform to the NS application delegate. Okay, so now here inside this app delegate, let's implement application continue user activity. So here basically we just need to get the URL string from the user activity dot user info dictionary. This is optional, so let's add this optional mark here, question mark, and then pass the activity URL key, cast this as string, and then let's initialize an URL using the URL string. Okay, if this succeed, we just need to invoke ns workspace.share.open, passing the URL. This will open Safari. And then finally, we just need to return true from this method. And next, we need to connect this app delegate to the Xcode News Mac app. And to do that, we just need to declare a new property using the ns application delegate adapter property wrapper. Let's pass the app delegate.self and then make this private var with the name of app delegate. Now let's change the scheme to Xcode News Mac and try to build this. Okay, the build succeeded. Now we can try to build and run the app for the Xcode News Mac target. So from your Apple Watch, just select an article from a category to open the article detail screen. Okay, here. And let me hover through the dock on my Mac. Nice, I can see this Handoff icon from the Xcode News from the Apple Watch. And then let me click on this icon. Boom, it opens Safari with the web page URL. Nice. That's it for the Handoff task. Let's move on to the final task. which is to implement the Apple Watch complication watch face. Complication is used to display timely and relevant information on the watch face every time the users raise their wrist. For this task, we'll add a complication for our news app that displays title and description of an article that is refreshed every 1 hour. WatchOS provides many different kind of complication family such as circular, corner, rectangle, and many more. For our app, we are going to support three families: graphic rectangle, modular small, and modular large. Some of these families supports using SwiftUI view to render the complication. Okay, now let's navigate to the Xcode watch extension here. Inside the views folder, let's create a new SwiftUI view for our complication. Let's give it a name of complication view. Okay, now here let's import clock it, and for the complication view let's add a constant. And for the complication view let's add a text property and assign it with default value of empty string. And inside the body we need to pass this text to the text view, and let's set the font to caption 2 and add frame modifier, passing max width as infinity and alignment as leading. Okay, now inside this complication previews, replace this with group. And to test this using a complication watch face graphic rectangular large, let's use this CLK complication template graphic rectangular large view. Okay, there are two parameters. For the header text provider, we need to pass CLK text provider. So here let me just pass Xcode news. For the arguments, let's pass an empty array. For the content, I'm going to pass the complication view and passing the text. Apple announced WatchOS 8 at WWDC 2021. Okay, and now let's add a preview context modifier, and now we can preview this. Let's make sure to select Xcode News Watch as the theme here, and then enable the preview. So make sure to select the Xcode News Watch here as the scheme, and then click on this resume. There's an error here. I think here, okay, here we incorrectly add this Xcode News iOS target as the target membership for this. So let's uncheck this Xcode News. Make sure only the Xcode News Watch extension is selected. Okay, now let's resume the preview. Nice. Now we can see here inside this preview, Xcode automatically assign this watch face for us to display our complication view using the graphic rectangular large view complication template. You can try to experiment with the other complication template if you are interested. Next, we need to create the article data store to store the article data in user defaults when the refresh background task fetches the data. We'll use this to get the article from the complication controller later. That is the data source for displaying complication. And we won't be using multiple timeline entries for this app. Basically, we just implement one method to get the current timeline entry. The complication refresh will be performed when the app launches or in background task after the data is fetched. Okay, now navigate to the Xcode Watch extension folder here and then create a new Swift file. Give it a name of article data store. Make sure to uncheck this Xcode so we don't repeat the same mistake before. so we don't repeat the same mistake like before when we create the complication view. And then let's make sure this is selected, action is watch extension, and then click create. Okay, here we just need to declare a private constant, give it a name of last article key with the value of last article key string, and then let's declare a struct article data store. Inside, let's declare a constant for the user defaults and assign it with user defaults dot standard. And let's also declare a JSON decoder and JSON encoder. Okay, let's make all of these private. And now let's create a computed property, last article, with the type of optional article. So this is computed. We need to provide the getter and the setter. Okay, for the getter, let's get the data from the user defaults.data for key, last article key. And then let's try to get the article using try optional here, JSON decoder, decode article.self from data. Okay, in case it fails, we just return nil, and then finally we return the article. And for the setter, let's just make sure the new value exists using guardlet, and then let's encode this to data using this try optional JSON encoder encode, passing the value. In case it is failed, we just return, and then finally we just invoke defaults set, passing the data for key, last article key. Okay, let's clean this up. And that's basically it for the article data store implementation that store the last article using the user defaults internal. Next, let's move on to the complication controller, which is the data source used for displaying the data for the watch face. Let's navigate to the complication controller.swift. So here let's import SwiftUI first at the top, and then let's declare a private constant data store and assign it with the article data store struct. And now let's remove this current value of the descriptors inside the complication descriptors method. This method is used to provide all the complications and families that our app supports. In our case, we just have one type of complication that support 3 families. In the array, initialize a CLK complication descriptor. And let's use this one. For the identifier, let's pass complication. And for the display name, let's pass XN news. For the supported families, let's pass an array containing graphic rectangular, modular large, and modular small. Okay. Now let's try to build. Okay, the error goes away. Now let's remove the methods that we won't be using. This one, get timeline end date, and get timeline entries method. Okay. Next, let's declare a private helper method to generate the CLK complication template based on the title and the body parameter as well as the complication family path. So here let me declare an extension at the bottom, complication controller, and then just declare a method make template. Okay, for the first parameter, it is string title. Second one is body, also string. Third one, let's pass the complication. which is CLK complication. And for the return type, it will be CLK complication template. This is basically the UI. Let's use the switch statement, passing complication.family. For the default case, let's just return nil. And first one is the graphic rectangular. For this case, we are going to return CLK complication template graphic rectangular large view. Okay. For the header text provider, let's pass CLK text provider. For the format, let's pass the title. Let's pass an empty arguments. And for the content, let's pass the complication SwiftUI view, passing the body as the text parameter. Okay, for the second case, let's declare a modular large family. And here we just need to return CLK complication template, modular large standard body. And let's use this one, header text provider and body one text provider initializer. For the header text provider, let's initialize CLK text provider. Let's pass the title, empty arguments. Okay. For the body one text provider, we also need to pass the CLK text provider, passing the body with empty arguments. For the third case, it is modular small. Here we just return CLK complication template, modular small simple text. Here text types this text provider. Okay, let me just initialize CLK text provider. Here I'm going just to pass the title. Okay, that's it for this helper method to generate the CLK complication template. Okay, now for this localizable template, this is basically a placeholder template. So let's just declare a text here. Latest news will appear here. Okay. And then create a template, invoking Mac template. For the title, let's pass Axiom News. For the body, let's pass the text. For the complication, pass the complication. And finally, let's pass the template to the completion handler. Okay, now we need to implement this required get current timeline entry. Okay, so first let's use guardlet to get the article from data store, invoking last article property. And then let's get the template using the Mac template private method here. And then let's pass the article dot title. And for the body, let's pass article dot description tags. For the complication, we can pass this complication here. Okay. In case it fails, the guard statelet, we just invoke the handler returning nil. Continuing on, we need to declare the entry CLK complication timeline entry. Let's assign it with the current date and pass the complication template here. And finally, we need to pass this entry to the completion handler. Okay, there's an error. Initializer for conditional binding must have optional type. Oops, sorry. This needs to be optional. Okay, forgot it. And then here, I also need to add return here, as the guard body will fall through in the else block. And that's it for the complication data source implementation. Now we need to schedule and handle the background refresh task to fetch the data and refresh the complication periodically every 1 hour. We need to handle this using the WK extension delegate protocol and register this to our WatchOS app. So inside the Xcode watch extension, create a new Swift file, give it a name of extension delegate. Okay. At the top, we need to import watch kit as well as the clock kit. And let's declare the class name extension delegate as a make this inherit to NS object and conform to the WK extension delegate. First, let's declare a private constant for the news API. Assign it with the news API.shared. So we can use this to call the API to fetch articles. Next one is to declare a private var data store. So we can store the last article here after we fetch it with the article data store here. Before we implement this, let's create several private helper methods that will help us later. Okay, for the first helper method, let's declare a private function named reload active complications. So here the body, to reload the active complication, we need to get the CLK complication server using the shared instance. And then we need to loop here the complication for complication in server.activeComplication. This is an array, optional. Let's provide a empty array as the default value. Here we just need to invoke server.reload timeline, passing the complication. For the second method, we are going to declare this private function schedule next reload. Here we just first declare a constant named target date, assign it with the current date, and let's invoke adding time interval to be 1 hour later. So this is 60 seconds multiplied by 60, which is 1 hour. Okay, now we need to invoke WK extension dot shared and then schedule background refresh here with the preferred date, passing the target date. For the user info, we just pass nil. And for the scheduled completion, let's just pass this empty closure. Next, let's declare the private function refresh complication category with one parameter here, category. This is a category enum. Let's assign this with general as the default value. And for the second parameter, it will be a closure, escaping closure with one Boolean parameter. Let's assign it with a empty closure. Okay, so inside this method, we want to invoke the news API fetch articles. That is an async function. So we need to switch to the async context using this task. Let's pass the priority high, and inside this async context closure, let's use the guard statement, guard let, and then articles, and then let's use this try, make it optional, and then we need to prefix it with await news API fetch from the category, and then let's get as this is an array of article, let's just get one element, random element, by invoking articles.random element. In the else block, we just need to trigger completion as false and return. Continuing on, we need to trigger the data store here, last article, and then assign it with this article that we just fetch. And then let's invoke the reload active complications to reload the watch face. And let's invoke completion passing through. Let's try to build this first. Okay, the build succeeded. So next, let's override the application did finish launching. Here we just simply invoke schedule next reload to schedule the background refresh task in 1 hour ahead. Then let's use a if statement here, checking if the data store last article is nil. So in this case, we want to invoke the refresh complication category. So this will download the latest article and then reload the active watch face. In the else case, I just want to invoke reload active complications. And to handle the background refresh task, we need to implement the handle background task here. So basically here, the parameter is set. So we need to loop this for task in background task. So let's use switch statement on the task. For the default case, let's just invoke task.set task completed with snapshot, passing false. And for the case where the task is WK application refresh background task, we're going to cast and then grab this let task. Here we want to invoke the refresh completion category. Let's just pass a default general category. And for the completion here, we just need to invoke task.set task completed with snapshot, passing the success parameter with $0. And then we also need to schedule the refresh background task for 1 hour ahead by invoking this schedule next reload. Now we need to connect this extension delegate to our Xcode News WatchOS app. So here, let's select this Xcode News app inside the Xcode News Watch extension. So here we need to declare a new property using the WK. Let's import WatchKit first. WK extension delegate adapter property wrapper and pass the extension delegate.self. Make it private var with the name of extension delegate. Now let's try to build this first. Okay, the build succeeded. Now we can try to build and run this using the simulator. Okay, now let's go back to the home screen, the watch face, by tapping on the digital crown. And to select the infograph watch face, I'm going to do it from the iPhone here. Clicking on this watch and then select this face gallery from the tab view here. I'm going to select the modular one here, modular watch face. And let me add this. Okay, it's added to the Apple Watch. Okay, it automatically changed the watch face. Let me add the complication by holding this and then click edit and then swipe here, select complications. This is the rectangular one. Let's scroll down. Okay, this is the Xcode News Watch with the template snapshot. Click this and then click on the digital crown. Nice. It successfully fetches the latest article and then assign it to the active watch face here. Now, if you want to test this in 1 hour, this will actually refresh using the WK session refresh background task. When I tap on this complication, it will navigate to the app, but it will be nice if we can show the article detail screen related to this article. Let's try to implement this next. Okay, now let's navigate to the extension delegate.swift to handle this continue user activity from the complication tab. So basically we need to implement the handle user activity. To make sure this comes from the complication tab, we need to check the user info where it contains this CLK launch complication identifier key. So if it is not nil, this user activity comes from the complication launch. So here let's also grab the article from the data store plus article. Okay. And finally, we need to invoke notification center.default post. For the name, let's just send the articles send notification name. For the object, it's this nil. And for the user info, let's pass the article key here with the article instance. Okay, now we need to observe this notification from the WatchOS content view and then present the article detail screen. So navigate to the content view in the Xcode Watch extension. Okay. And here let's declare a state for the sheet. Give it a name of complication article with the type of optional article. And here above the searchable modifier, let's add the sheet modifier. For the binding, let's pass the complication article. We don't need the on dismiss. And for the content, this is the view provider. We just need to declare the article detail view, passing the article using this $0. And now we need to observe the notification for the article sent using the on receive here. For the publisher, notification center.default publisher. For article send notification name, object nil. And then for the handler closure, this is the notification. Let's grab it. So basically, we just need to grab the article from the user info, notification.user info, and for the key, this is article. Let's cast this as article. If this fail, we just return, and finally we can assign the complication article state with the article from the notification. Now let's try to build and run this. Okay, go back to the watch face and then click on the complication. Nice, it successfully present the article detail screen. You can also send this to my iPhone here and then read it here. Nice, we have successfully implemented all the features. But before I conclude this, there's one final task, which is to implement the settings view. So basically for the settings view, we will provide the settings to select the default category used to fetch the complication article, and also ability to clear all the bookmarks in one tab. So let's create a SwiftUI view inside the views folder in the Xcode Watch extension. Give it a name of settings view. So at the top, let's declare a complication category key constant, because we are going to store this in usual defaults using the app storage property wrapper. Let's declare it with the selected complication category string. And inside the settings view, we need the environment object for the bookmark VM. Let's make it private. Article bookmark view model, and let's inject this also in the preview. Before I forget, article bookmark view model, and then assign it with the shared singleton. Next, I'm going to use this app storage property wrapper, passing the complication category key to be stored in the usual defaults. And then I'm going to declare it private var. I'm going to declare it using this underscore selected category name. and the value that will be stored in the usual defaults will be the type of optional string. As you know that the category itself is an enum, so we need to create a proxy binding to convert this to string when we get inside it. So let's declare a private var selected category. This will be type of binding category. This is computed, and let's initialize a binding using the get set here. For the getter, let's just initialize the category enum, and for the raw value, let's pass the selected category here, this one. This is also optional, so in that case, let's provide the default value of category.general.raw value, and also here in the enum. Okay, and for the setter, let's grab the new value parameter and then assign this to the underscore selected category of storage using the new value raw value. Okay, now we can bind this category and it will automatically store this as a string in the usual defaults. Okay, now let's move on to the body of our settings view. Okay, so let's declare a form. And now let's declare the first section using the content header footer. For the header, let's just pass the text complication string. And for the footer, let's provide the informational text. Set category of news used for referencing complication data. Okay. So inside this section, we're going to provide the user a picker to select the category. Let's pass the category string as the title. And we need to provide the selection binding, which is the selected category. And then inside the picker, we are going to use for each passing category enum or cases. And basically, we just render it using a text, using $0.text. Let's also pass the tag here to make sure it binds to the selection. Okay, that's it for the first section of our settings. Then the next one is to clear all the bookmarks data. So basically we want to display this section if the bookmark exists. So we need to check if bookmark is not empty here. We declare a section using the same content header footer. For header, let's pass a text, save bookmarks data. For the text information, clearing will remove all your saved articles list data. Okay, inside the section we just provide a button using the role action label initializer, this destructive role, and for the action we just need to invoke bookmark vm dot remove all bookmarks. For the label, let's just declare text clear all. And finally, we need to add the navigation title modifier to our form. Give it a string of settings. Now we need to use this value when we fetch the data in the background task inside the extension delegate. So here, let's declare a private var computer property selected complication category with the type of category, and let's use guard statement. First one, guard let value. Let's use usual default standard value for key complication category and cast this as a string. Okay, if it succeed, we initialize a category. Okay, with the raw value of this value that we get from the usual defaults, and else we just return general category, which is the top headlines, and finally we can return the category. Let's try to build. Okay, book succeeded. Now here we need to pass this when we invoke the first complication category, this one, selected complication category. Let's find the other ones. Okay, this one also, category, selected complication category. Okay, I think this is the two invocation for the reverse complication category. So this will use the selected complication category from the settings for fetching the articles in the background to display it in the complication. Now for the WatchOS target inside the menu item case here, we need to add the case for search menu item, but only for WatchOS target. So let's do it using the conditional complication if OS WatchOS. Okay. Case, let's add additional case settings. Let's also implement this in the text here. So here in case of WatchOS settings, we return string settings for the text, and let's copy this. For the system image, let's use the gear SF symbol, and then for the ID also, just going to return a settings identifier, and for this initializer with menu item ID, just going to assign self as settings. Okay, I think that's all to add the menu item settings for WatchOS target. Now we need to add this to the main menu list item inside the content view, the Xcode watch extension. So here, let's declare it. Here I can just invoke navigation link for menu item, passing settings, and for the view provider, let's just use a label here. Passing menu item dot settings dot text as the title, and for the system image menu item settings dot system image. And now for the view for menu item, we need to handle the settings case to navigate to the settings view. Okay, that's it. Now let's build this. Okay, there is one compiler error. Okay, this is actually menu item settings.id. Okay, let's try to build again. Okay, the build succeeded. Let's run using the simulator. Okay, let me bookmark one article first. Maybe two. Okay, and then nice, at the bottom I have this section containing the settings view. Okay, I have the category section and the clear all for the bookmarks data, and here I can select this picker to select the category that I want to fetch in the complication background. In this case, I want it to be technology. And let's try this clear all. Tap this. Nice. Let's check inside this save menu item. Okay, there are no saved articles. Congratulations! You have successfully built the new WatchOS app with many amazing features, such as native WatchOS UX experience with SwiftUI, fetching news articles based on various categories, bookmark articles into saved article list, search article related to the user input query, Watch connectivity framework between Apple Watch and iPhone to send URL to iPhone, Handoff reading activity from Apple Watch to iOS and macOS, Complication that refresh data periodically using WatchOS background refresh task API, and finally the settings view. Great job for you all to follow the courses series so far. To conclude, I want you all to explore many possibilities for apps that you can build on WatchOS. I believe we are only scratching the surface on what is possible with WatchOS. So, until the next one, let's keep the lifelong learning goes on. See ya on the next one. Bye!